Support for WUWM podcast comes from Hop Harvest and Vine and Good Harvest Market in Pewaukee, part of One Destination, combining farm-to-table dining, local craft beers, and organic groceries under one roof. More at goodharvestmarket.com.
Lake Effect brings you conversations about what's happening in Milwaukee and the people, places, and organizations that shape our community. This is Lake Effect Spotlight from WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR.
This year, WUWM has committed to covering issues our listeners say are top priorities, including the economy. As part of that coverage, we're exploring how the economy is impacting Wisconsinites with different financial needs and concerns. Tom Oberhaus is the co-operator of Cozy Nook Farm in Waukesha County. Cozy Nook is primarily a dairy farm, supplying milk to Prairie Farms mainly for their cheese products. The farm supplements its dairy businesses with seasonal pumpkin and Christmas tree sales. When Lake Effect's Sam Woods last spoke with Oberhaus in October, pumpkin sales were going strong. This month, the two discuss how Christmas tree season went and how Cozy Nook is preparing for 2026.
Last time I was here, it was the middle of pumpkin season. There were school tours going around, people popping in for pumpkins, seemed business was doing very well. As we've transitioned from pumpkin season to Christmas tree season, how has that transition been for you, and how did Christmas tree season go?
First of all, pumpkin season ended up very, very good. Christmas tree season started off with the biggest bang it's ever started off with, because you may remember we had the snowstorm coming on the Saturday after Thanksgiving, so that Friday was a tremendously busy day. Then the snowstorm hit, and the cold weather hit, the winter weather hit, and so our business slacked off significantly, and we just had a so-so kind of year. We are used to selling out of trees. We typically sell the very last tree, and this year, I'm sorry to report, we did not, and I think the weather played a major role. As the season goes, we usually get quite a few people that come out from the city as their day out to come visit the farm and get a Christmas tree, and that business dropped off significantly because the weather was cold and wintry.
We'll get back to what you make of that kind of slower season and how the weather can impact Christmas tree sales in a second here. But first, you mentioned that there were some leftover trees. So what happens to those trees now? Are they used for some kind of fertilizer, or repurposed somehow? What happens?
Interesting question, because we really have not faced that question for the last 10, 15 years. We have not had a single tree left over. So currently they're laying in the fence row just behind the barn here. And I do have a couple friends that want them to, they'll put them out on the ice, and then they fall through the ice and make a nice habitat for the fish. And beyond that, we got a few more left over. So I'm not quite sure just how we will recycle them yet.
Well, I'm sure you'll find a way. But back to Christmas tree sales and what it can tell us about a local economy. So you mentioned that typically you have Christmas tree customers coming in from the city. I'm guessing in addition to customers either from around the bend or somewhere in Waukesha County. Is that the case? Is it a mix of local to Waukesha County and from the city of Milwaukee, and that is kind of it? Or do you see people coming from elsewhere in the state?
Yeah, the beginning of the season is, I would say, almost everybody is probably within less than 10 miles away from the farm. And then as the season goes on, we tend to have more that come from even downtown Waukesha or further into the city of Milwaukee. And that's the part of the business that didn't quite get going this year for us.
When we spoke in October about pumpkin sales, and this being a WWM series on economic check-ins, we were playing with the connection of, pumpkins aren't necessarily a necessity, and it's something you can choose to cut back on if economic times are bad. And so if pumpkin sales are up, then that might be an indicator that people are feeling good about the economy. Not a perfect indicator, an anecdotal indicator, but an indicator. Yes. And so I was kind of coming in with the same thing in mind for Christmas trees, where, it'd certainly be a shame to cut back on Christmas trees, but it's something you could if you needed to. Would you say that this year's drop in Christmas tree sales we could think of it as an indicator of people feeling a little not too great about the economy? Or is it more about the weather that you were talking earlier, where it's more just you think that people, especially coming from the city of Milwaukee, were just saying, you know what, it's too cold, I'm going to go somewhere a little bit closer to me?
We think the latter is the case. It was just a weather situation because the spending per customer certainly didn't seem to drop off. It was strong. But the weather just put a clamps. Some people did not decorate their houses. I mean, I think if you drove around here on Christmas Eve, yes, there's lots of houses that were decorated, but I think the percentage of houses decorated had dropped off too because of the weather, and that's understandable. So we feel sales per customer was good, but number of customers was down a little bit.
What's on the horizon for Cozy Nook Farm? You know, we've checked in during pumpkin season, Christmas tree season. Now it sounds like the cows are starting to become the star of the show again. What does that mean for you?
So right now is kind of our business planning time of the year because, first of all, the books have to get wrapped up for last year. There's a lot of work to do there financially. And then we need to make plans for the next year as far as cropping plans and fertilizer buying and seed buying and all those type of things, and prioritizing for the next year. What kind of capital projects do we want to go at? A farm always has to make improvements every year. If you don't make improvements, you slowly just kind of go down the tubes. So we look at capital investments for this next year. We don't make many of them during the winter because first of all, if anything has to do with the ground, it's getting pretty hard out there, nice and frozen. And so come spring, we got some projects in mind, and we'll get at them. So right now is more of a planning time to get ready to rock and roll come spring.
Have you noticed bigger economic trends affecting prices for, the seeds, capital improvements, everything else that you're looking at right now? I'm thinking impacts of tariffs, impacts of just kind of global supply chains, anything like that you're seeing like, oh, this is new this year. You think it might have something to do with kind of the bigger economic picture?
Fertilizer prices are up, not drastically, but they are up. Seed prices look like they're maintaining because I think the seed companies are well aware that the agriculture economy in general is not doing very good because our crop prices are quite low right now. And so seed prices have maintained. So it's on to the next year, and we'll hope for a good growing season and hopefully a little better prices on our crops.
Can you remind us what crops you have grown at Cozy Nook in the past and what you're looking to do in the future?
Sure. So corn is the mainstay to feed the cows and then sell the extra. And then soybeans is a great rotational crop for us. It's good for the soil. And then we sell the soybeans and we grow a little bit of wheat because we need the straw for the cattle. And then we grow a fair amount of hay to feed the cows. So it kind of all revolves around the cows with a little bit of extra crops to sell some crops, hopefully.
So a bit of a double-barrel question here, but as you look forward to the next year, are there things that you are particularly excited about for Cozy Nook's future, or on the flip side, you're kind of worried about?
You got to be excited. If you aren't optimistic and excited, you don't belong farming because you got to have optimism going into the season. So right now we're excited about some different cropping rotations and making use of some different cover crops on the ground and maybe a little different weed program for controlling the weeds and the pumpkins and just all kinds of neat stuff. And, you get exposed to lots of them at different meetings and whatnot. And it's kind of exciting to think about, maybe this could work for us. So it's a time of a lot of optimism for us. Like I say, if you aren't optimistic, I don't know how you farm because you got to be optimistic and hope for the best. And if it doesn't turn out so good, you say, well, there's next year coming, optimism is what it's all about.
I guess I should have expected that. I've known you to be an optimist a couple times that I've popped by, so that's not surprising. Maybe a better way of asking what I'm trying to get at here is there larger kind of economic trends that you see that might either directly benefit Cozy Nook or be something that could hurt you in the next year?
So I think the big trend here in Waukesha County is more houses going up all the time, and we got to look at them as potential customers, particularly for the pumpkin and tree business. And maybe there's some other little businesses along those lines that we need to make use of our urban neighbors even a little bit more. So to me, the optimism is trying to generate more money, more income off the people living next door to us.
Well, Tom, thank you so much for joining me on Lake Effect. I appreciate your time.
You're very welcome.
Tom Oberhaus is the co-operator of Cozy Nook Farm in Waukesha County. He spoke with Lake Effect's Sam Woods as part of our check-in series, where we hear from Milwaukee voices on the changing economic landscape. This reporting is part of WUWM's focused coverage on 3 issues our community told us they care about: climate change, immigration, and the economy. You can find more coverage on these issues at WUWM.com.
You can find more interviews like this one by visiting WUWM.com/Lake Effect. And while you're there, subscribe to the Lake Effect Spotlight podcast.